Hello again. Here we are at the hospital, the extramural hospital at Rindoon. When I say extramural, I mean that the hospital was located outside the walls of the town to prevent the spread of disease. The hospital was run by the Crutched Friars of St. John the Baptist. They were the religious order that ran the hospital. The hospital, we know from geophysical survey and looking at the standing remains, consisted originally, although we only have foundations today, of 4 ranges around a central open area, in much the same way that other medieval monasteries would have looked. However, the one difference between a hospital and other medieval religious foundations, such as abbeys or friaries, would be that there was a hall-like building within which the sick and infirm would have been cared for by the Crutched Friars. And the building behind me, our interpretation of the remains would be that the building behind me, although it functioned as a post-medieval Church of Ireland church, was that hall-like building that functioned as the ward of the hospital. Lastly, the other thing I can say is that hospitals had a number of functions in medieval society. They were obviously there primarily to care for the sick, the diseased, but also orphans and the elderly were given shelter here, were looked after by the Crutched Friars. Also, travellers and pilgrims could spend an evening, would be given hospitality at these sites, at these hospital sites as well. In all, I suppose it could be said that the Crutched Friars, medieval hospitals, the orders that ran them, provided a form of what we would call social welfare to society. Okay, what we today would call social welfare. Okay, what else can we say? Well, the interesting thing about the hospital is that when the town was deserted in the mid-14th century and reverted to, in the 1320s, the 1340s, and reverted to farmland, the hospital continued in existence, but under Gaelic O'Kelly patronage. So it remained under Gaelic control right up to the late 16th century, when the hospital and its lands, its buildings, were granted to new English settlers as part of the whole dissolution process. I might add too, another interesting fact is that my PhD student, Brian Shanahan, has shown that this Anglo-Norman hospital, founded in the early 13th century, actually was placed within an earlier pre-Norman monastic site. Actually, a very large monastery existed here on the site of the later hospital during early medieval times. So there's lots of interest here, and I hope you enjoy visiting it.